Colin, Sonny, Larry. Didn't you and he used to be the best of friends?
We're still the best of friends.
No, you're not.
Who says we're not?
Sit somewhere else.
Now, if I've done something to you, just tell me what I've done to you.
When you didn't do anything to me, I just don't like you no more.
You liked me yesterday.
Colin, it's so nice to see you again.
Good to see you again. How are you?
I'm so fabulous. Brendan, it is such a pleasure to meet you. I feel like I'm eating dessert right now because the chemistry between you guys is so delicious and effortless. And I know, the last film, this is the first film you're in together since 2008 in Bruges. And I first wanted to know, what have you learned from each other after all this time?
Oh, Jesus.
Ongoing, I think. There's always, we find like we're very different in loads of ways. And there's a kind of a common, it's a kind of a soul kinship that allows us to discover all different things from our very different lives, which are, not all that different, but different enough. We were different generationally. We're living in different places. So coming around, it's always, we don't really hook up all that much. We don't, like once every couple of years.
It doesn't matter.
It always feels as if we just continue where we left off. But it's like in terms of learning anything, I'm not sure. We find things out every day, really.
Yeah, exactly what he said. No, it is that. I don't know. I mean, I have an awful raw love for this man, and I do know in ways that I'm not too shy to articulate, but I don't have the words, or I don't have the exact precision to understand how he's informed my life. But I do know as an actor, most importantly though, as a man, as a human being, which puts into friend, father, all those ways, he's a huge, huge influence on me. And I just have the height of respect for him. I just think he's just one of the greats, as a human being. An actor, all that jazz, it's brilliant stuff. But I adore the man. And enough so that once every 3 years is enough of a measure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't see each other that much, but there's people I see on the regular in my life that I don't feel as clearly as I feel him when I get to spend time with him. So all that's there,
It's a kind of an odd one because every time we meet up, there's love in the room. I'm mad about this fella as well. He's absolute gentleman, and it's and a lot of fun. And it's one of those things that, funny enough, with all the talk about neediness, there's no neediness in the relationship at all. So it doesn't matter. We go in and we take what we get.
It's so brilliant. It really is so easy. It's lovely.
Yeah, we take what we get. We don't, there's never any kind of thing. I mean, we said when we're leaving this time, because I don't care when we see each other next time, because, it's just there.
Yeah, it's just that, it's like knowing that some people are out in the world is enough sometimes.
Yeah, and it's just so organic, and I can tell just with you guys talking to each other that resonance. And you're both shy Irish boys, by the way. That SNL was so funny. But I gotta tell you guys, this is my favorite film you've done together. It's my favorite Martin McDonagh film. I feel like we've seen romantic breakups explored so much, and I actually run a support group for people that are heartbroken, and more people come to meetings for friendship heartbreaks because they're so
really?
Right.
Wow, that's fascinating to me. How often or how really? And people become, because of the dissolution of friendships, they've lost a lifelong friend.
Right, because it's not like you get this phone call that you're like, hey, we're not friends anymore. But in this movie you do, which I think is so beautiful. And so Colin, I know Martin's favorite part of the film is actually the expression that Pádraig makes when Colm tells him, I don't want to be friends anymore. And I wanted to know what went into making that face, and what did you imagine Pádraig was thinking about in that moment?
I was just thinking of what you're saying, and I get that, but friendship is more nebulous in how it's presented. Yeah. You don't have to have a couple of dates, or you don't share a bed with each other. You're not working towards maybe a marriage or cohabitation or having kids. It's more nebulous. And so if there is a dissolution, sometimes are some of those people that come and visit your support group, are they left hanging that they don't exactly know where they stand?
Yes, and that's why I think this film is so beautiful. And Martin McDonagh's storytelling.
He lets me know where I stand. Crushing. I mean, there's so much of Pádraig's life is built around the presence of this man in his everyday, and so it's just crushing.
It's a core part of how you see yourself too, are the people that you have kind of settled into knowing, well, that's stable. Right. That's a reality. That's just a continuum. That, that a kind of a connection like that is a continuum, and therefore this allows me to be myself at a particular, from a particular place of safety.
Well, I'm somewhere between being an individualist and, you know, a fan of the communal as well. And those are two juxtapositions that we're always bouncing between, you know, our need for solitude and our need to be part of something greater than ourselves. So I think oftentimes friendship gives our lives worth. I mean, we have to, I get it. You have to find worth within yourself. I get it. Look, Jesus, therapy, I'm into it. But you also, we do get worth. And I think it's justifiable. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's understandable that we get worth from those people that we choose consciously and choose through shared experience to continue to have in our lives, and hope that they continue to invite us into their lives.
And there's also the thing about where, you know, Colin's character has lost his parents and never really, you know, his whole, he has coped with it by, you know, his nature and being feeling in some way opting not to deal. It always felt in part of that expression you were talking about, there was the whole weight of that grief suddenly came. That whole revisitation of that kind of abandonment and what was going on there.
Yeah.
That was it was doubled up on a little bit.
There was no place to grieve. I mean, I know, I don't think it's telling tales out of school. Like when my dad's mom died and he was 13, there was no room for crying. There was, you one day, have your tears, and then we're moving on. So there would have been a bit of that. And
women were allowed to wear widow's weeds for a year and would be expected to wear it that you were in mourning. So the men had to get on with it.
So there's, you know, both are a prison, by the way. Expected to be in mourning.
Totally.
Both are a prison.
Totally. That's different,
you know, different.
Absolutely. Wow. This is like such a fascinating conversation. I wish I was in the same room with you guys, but it is true. I feel like that's also why this film is so beautiful, because we get to see that emotion from men, a man hurting, saying, hey, I want to be your friend. People never say that out loud. There's like this shame around that. And even, you know, Brendan, I wanted to ask you about Colm, because the reason why he wants to end the friendship is because he wants to devote his time to being this true artist. And I read that you said there's this sentiment I feel like we have as humans where we feel like we have to be prepared to suffer for our art. And the three of us are in the entertainment industry. And so I feel like we're constantly at that intersection. And so I wanted to know what your thoughts are on that. Like, is art more important than friendship?
It's funny. I was talking to my son about this yesterday, and about the need for like people like who've gone into say you go into a play and you get into a place that's so dark. I was talking to somebody who'd gone into a play who spent 8 months being in a very, very dark place, and they took about 7 years to get over it, really, because there's a kind of a soul memory where if you go into those places for long enough, it can actually take your life away and start bleeding into your life. So the interaction between art and living is always a consistent one for me. I think that living is such a gift that you have to treasure it equally with art, and that you can sacrifice all you want, but if it's fundamentally stopping you living and enjoying the living of your life, you're paying too high a price for it. So il faut souffrir, all that stuff about it's necessary to suffer. I think that can be true. It doesn't have to be true and shouldn't be worn as a kind of badge of honor. But if you have to go there, you go there. But if by going there you are ruining the greatest gift you're given, I think you're besmirching it. And that's where I put my balance. If it's damaging me at some point on a fundamental level, I'm getting out of there. This is what happens in this one. It damages him, including. Obviously, it damages, you know, Pádraig. But Colin,
the price you pay.
The price he pays.
Like when you say the despair is coming, when he says how's the despair, it's coming back a bit. Yeah, that's also crushing. It's crushing. Yeah,
and even the time where he sees that there's a certain point in the film where he feels he's looking at the first consequence.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of saying, I did it. I suffered for my art. I was prepared to go to the end. And so he's not seeing the perspective that Siobhan has.
Short-lived.
You're a lunatic. Yeah. But he's saying, I'm prepared to sacrifice all for art. And there is a beauty in that. So I think the film, what's great about the film is it's kind of tossing it all up in the air and saying, well, you guys figure it out.
I love it. It's so hard though, Brendan, because we do wear busyness as a badge of honor in life. And I'm sure with you guys are actors, so you spend so much of your life being another person and away from your friends and family. So I commend you, and I can't thank you enough for making this movie and putting the art into the world, because it's amazing. Before I leave really quick, Colin, the last time you and I spoke was for the Batman, and Brendan.
Yes, I remember in studio that day.
Yeah, you're going to be in the Joker sequel, Brendan, with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. And I was wondering if you guys have had a chance to exchange advice or talk about Jokers or Batman.
No, but we're going to be working off the philosophy of 2 degrees of separation from now on. We've decided.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. He won't tell me nothing about it. Sworn to secrecy. Very admirable. And I know nothing about mine except I read the first episode, and it's the penguin thing, and it's magic. It's so tasty.
Well, he was brilliant in The Penguin, and Joaquin as Joker is indelible in my head. So this is such a privilege to go into that level of work. It's fantastic. I can't wait.
Why does he not want to be friends with you no more? Why is he 12?
What the hell's going on with you, me brother?
He's dull, Siobhan.
I'm a major fan of your work, and I know you're actually a major fan of the director, Martin McDonagh's work, so much so that you actually had a picture of him on the background of your phone.
I did.
Even working with him. Isn't it crazy how that happened?
It's not crazy. It's just weird. No, honestly, I did. I'm a big believer in you know, attracting what you put out there and that. And you know, Martin was on the list of directors I wanted to work with, and I went as far as putting him on the front of my phone as a screensaver. And literally up until the point where I met him in New York to discuss the film, he was on my phone, and it was when I was waiting on him to come in, I was like, I should get this off in case I put my phone down and he sees his face pop up. He'll just think I'm insane and whatever. But yeah, that was I think it worked. I think it worked.
Absolutely. I mean, you attracted it. It's so insane. But now that you've been in a Martin McDonagh film, did it like surpass your wildest dreams? And what did you learn about Martin's process working on this movie?
You know, just being kind of out there on in Achill Island, and that was just a little magical experience, to be honest. And it does feel like the most Irish film ever. And to be part of that and be part of Martin McDonagh's kind of, you know, circle is really nice as well. Being a massive fan of his, and Brendan and Colin and Kerry and all of that. You know, and getting to kind of, you know, experiment in that world and play a character and bring it to life is I feel very grateful.
Oh, I can't wait for people to see you in this. Let's talk about your character, Dominic, because he's a character that I feel like has a clearer grasp on the truth than everybody else on the island. And I was wondering how you connected to Dominic and what it is you love about Dominic.
I think it's just honesty. As you said there, truth, isn't it? I mean, he sees it for what it is, and that filter of, you know, not saying something to protect someone's feelings is kind of gone from eliminated. It's almost like he just says it, and you kind of get the harsh truth, and it's probably the best advice you get as well. And it's almost like kids, you know, when kids say something to you, they don't have that thing of I may hurt your feelings by telling you this, but they just say it. They see it for what it is and say it for what it is. So I think there's a bit of that there, but there obviously is. He does see stuff in a different at a different angle, I think. You know, I'm just wanting to play him of that essence of living day to day and tomorrow's a new day kind of attitude, because he's that little kind of burst of positivity in that for Colin, well, for Porrick.
I love that example you gave of kids, because that is, I guess that must have been a point of inspiration for you, because that is exactly what it's like. And it's probably really relieving to be able to speak honesty in that way, right? Like there's no sense of heaviness to it. It's like, well,
yeah, you get to a certain age and you do that, and then people don't like you. So you can kind of only do it up until like a certain age.
I wonder what cutoff that is. I wonder when I stopped doing that. That's so funny. What I found most mesmerizing to watch about your performance, Barry, was the way that you moved in Dominic. And I was wondering, I wanted to ask you about the physicality you brought to him and how you came to it.
Yeah, me and Martin had many discussions of, you know, kind of, you know, character traits and mannerisms. And I just wanted to be that kind of, you know, all right, up and go and into a new kind of, that's not working, let's go there. And that kind of, I wanted to inject that into his kind of movement and yeah, just kind of like a little twitch of some sort. So yeah, we had many discussions, and we had to find the balance and, you know, and humanize him as well, and not make it any way other than, you know, truthful.
Yeah, you can tell. And it really, you just really brought it to life on screen. I love it. I was also reading that you lived with your co-star, Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
So cool. And I was wondering if what was it like having Colin as your roommate? And did living with him help you at all with your character?
I did, yeah, I did, because that relationship still exists, you know. And Dominic and Colin, Dominic and Pork, and me and Colin, it's kind of similar relationship, you know. Only I don't tell Colin off and be like, you know, but it did help, you know. Everything does help, and being on that island as well, you know, it's so small, and you know, you know everyone, and it just, you kind of stay within that bubble. And it kind of has that aura as well, which is, you know, time doesn't exist, or you don't know what, you know, time of the year it is, or, well, you do know what time of the year is, but you don't know what kind of year it is. But yeah, it did help massively.
Yeah, I was reading too that you were looking for cell phone service on the island when you weren't shooting.
On the edge of a cliff, literally, like, you know, be like, I think it's over there.
And what I love about seeing you and Colin together in this movie, because you were saying this is like one of the most Irish films ever, which that's the best part of it. But this is actually your third film with Colin. The last one was The Batman, but you guys didn't share scenes together. I was wondering what impresses you most about Colin Farrell.
I think Colin is an amazing actor, you know, and we get to see in this as well, you know. He's so, you know, he really lets himself get vulnerable, and you know, has the comedy as well, and he goes through everything in this movie. I remember actually seeing it and being like, you know, texting him and saying, I think this is one of your best performances ever, man. You know, I'm really, really proud, and you know, I really mean that. So just as a younger actor watching him, I'm always learning, but you know, he's a role model to me as well, to be honest. He's always been there for me, and you know, just as a human being, and you know, I get to learn and watch as well from him.
That's beautiful. I hope we get to see you two in future movies together.
Yeah.
Do you think, have you guys talked about like Penguin meeting Joker in a future Batman film?
Oh, yeah. No. No, we haven't. I can't say anything when no one believes me, eh? I'm like, anyways.